So here we go. Welcome to another edition of the League One Lowdown. Today I'm joined by good old Gary from the Stacey West blog, covering all things Lincoln City. Gary, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I like being called good old Gary. I would say less of the old, but I can't deny it. Now my beard's going a bit grey.
Yeah, so if you regular listeners on Kings of Anglia and just don't know me, good old Ross, I always call everyone good old, even if you aren't old. Or, it's just my phrase. So it's more a mark of respect, Gary. I respect you, my friend. I've always enjoyed our chats. So it's not aging you or anything. It's just a respect name. I say good old. But yes, last season Lincoln. 17th in League One. Wasn't good, was it, Gary? After playoffs the year before last season, what went wrong?
Do you know what? It's hard because when I look at our squad last season and some of the performances we turned in, I believe that we had what it took to finish 10th or 12th. With a full squad, fully fit, absolutely. Look, injuries decimated us last season. I think Liam Bridcutt played 14 games. We lost Tom Hopper after 2 months. He was gone. We went to Oxford with no strikers. We were playing a 17-year-old kid out the youth team who's going to be fifth choice this season. He was our leading striker going into Christmas. Some big names that we signed just didn't turn up. I mean, I can say it now because he's leaving. Chris Maguire was utterly awful. Some of the signings we made in the summer, Hakiba Delican was a relatively big name. He didn't have a good season. Lasse Sorensen didn't settle. I did some maths. I think we played 24 different combinations of back four in League and Cup last season, which didn't help. 3 different goalkeepers in the league. Okay, Josh Griffiths played the majority of that, but we were never ever settled. And as soon as results started going against the team, we almost backtracked. There was no urgency. We were watching games where the ball was going from side to side, side to side. It was easy to say we knew Michael Appleton could do it because he'd done it the year before. So to blame the players, to blame the injuries, to blame that sort of thing. I think the fact that he walked minutes after the final game of the season suggests that there was more fundamental problems within the dressing room, which needed addressing, which he didn't do. So,
yeah, that's the next sort of topic to discuss now, Gary. He stepped down. Now you've got a new manager, a new head coach in charge, Mark Kennedy, who's got a bit of a connection with town. He played for us, also coached our reserve team as well. What was that reaction when Mark Kennedy got appointed?
I think reaction was mooted at best, if we're honest. We were heavily linked with Stephen Bradley from Shamrock Rovers, who's obviously taken Shamrock to the Champions League. That seems to be going quite close, and then that seemed to fall through. You never know the truth, whether it happened or not, I don't know. But to bring a guy in whose only previous management job was at Macclesfield, and he won 1 in 12, and then it's been kind of as an assistant manager. There was no excitement, let's say. But then where do you pitch excitement? You bring a name in who's been around before, and what happens? Inevitably you're rolling out the same faces. And I'm sure you guys got it when Kieran McKenna came in, somebody who you're not really sure about. So, I was apprehensive right up until a couple of weeks ago when we interviewed him. I met him, really nice guy, seemed to have right ideas. But that was the day that he appointed Mike Garrity as his assistant. And Mike Garrity, again, is a man who's been Liverpool under-23 for many, many years before he's moved here. He was Blackpool assistant manager when they were promoted under Neil Critchley. So I feel that management team, and I say management because I'm old school, but it's not his head coach, isn't it? It's the coaching team. And I feel that is a progressive coaching team. It's an unproven one. I mean, okay, Mike Garrity is proven, Mark Kennedy isn't. So it's a brave new world. Look, our paths crossed in 2016-17, and Lincoln City were very much starting out on a journey back then. There's a feeling that this season, probably that journey has now ended. It probably ended with the playoff defeat at Blackpool and Michael Appleton. So we're stepping into a new era.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the current move, but now it's just basically a new era at Lincoln City. Let's talk, Gary, about the transfer window as a whole. I'm sure when a new manager comes in, players will leave, players will come in. Let's talk about ins. What's the big statement in so far? What players you really excited about?
I don't think there's been a big statement in, if I'm brutally honest. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a way that there aren't players to be excited about. There are. We signed Paddy O'Connor from Bradford, who was their player of the year 2 years on the bounce. He's a former Leeds United youngster. bit of a no-nonsense centre-half. And given the way we defended last season, you'll remember the goal Macaulay Bond scored against us at our place where, he breezed past TJ Omer and TJ fell down. We needed more strength. We needed more aggression. So Paddy O'Connor should bring that. Charles Vernon is another who, really highly rated by Bradford City, local boy, was born in Lincoln as well. So another player that you think, well, he could do well. Loan signings, they've been quite low key. We've brought in Tashan Oakley Booth. Tashan won the Under-17 World Cup with England and moved from Spurs to Stoke, but struggled to get games at Stoke. He's come on a season-long loan. His contract's up this season at Stoke, so there's potential there. And Carl Rushworth, who's the keeper, had a great season last season for Walsall. Third year in a row, we've gone for a lone keeper. So, look, they're not the only incomers. They're the main incomers. There's really a deep sense of belief that will be a couple more coming in. He's getting dangerously close to the big kickoff, but I really feel at the minute we're still one or two short.
Yeah, every time I have these chats of all the League One opposition, the season starts the 30th of July, so it's still a whole month of the window to go. So loads of deals are going to be happening. There's been Premier League clubs not going to let their young players out yet, or talks are going to be happening with different players. So I'm sure a lot of teams will be looking very different going into the fourth game of the season because the window's still open. Is there any key players departing? I've got a bit of a stat here. So combined league starts lost from last season for Lincoln is 196. That's 39% of the team that you currently got. So the players are leaving. Is there any? Of course, Josh Griffiths, the goalie at West Brom, he's gone. Morgan Whitaker, of course, is a very highly rated player. Are they going to be big misses?
No. A lot of the players who came in January did well for us, but it's hard to say you're going to miss a player that's played half a season. Brook Norton-Cuffey's another coming from Arsenal, did really, really well. Morgan Whitaker, I'd like to see him back, but he didn't have the best of spells until later on. He was a little hit and miss. Liam Bridcut only started 14 in those games. Big miss. But he was a big miss last season because he was injured. Conor McGrandles has left, and he was quite highly rated by a lot of people. I didn't really see that. I mean, a hard, industrious midfielder, but yeah, I think to find a midfielder at League One that runs around a lot, can tackle and pass, probably that's 80% of the midfielders. So he was industrious. I don't think we'll miss him as much. For me, it's definitely Liam Bridcut. It's Lewis Fiorini, who was on loan last season. I thought he was very, very good for us, and he struggled. But in truth, not many of the other loan players made a massive impact. Josh Griffiths, yes, started 30-odd games for us, England under-21 international. But any goalkeepers listening to this are going to shoot me down now. You're two a penny because, you stop shots, you jump up in the air. I mean, every year we loan a goalkeeper now, and they're decent. We brought in Carl Rushworth. He's going to be a decent goalkeeper, 6 foot something, England under-21. They're interchangeable. So, I think it's just going to be interesting. It doesn't feel like we've lost any major players because nobody really stood out last season. Regan Poole was the player of the year. He won player of the year because he was the only player that managed to make more than 40 appearances. So we're looking for consistency. The big wins, Ross, this season for us are in the players who didn't get the chance under Michael Appleton or who struggled under Appleton. I'm talking Max Sanders, formerly of Brighton and Hove Albion, who has played lots in pre-season. He's had a year and a half on the fringes, but at Brighton he was being reported as potentially close to the first team when he moved. He could be a big name. Hakiba Delican, I think, if he gets a run. Sean Rowan's been on loan at Drogheda, but beginning of last season, he was on trial at Chelsea and Southampton. And he made one appearance for us last season in the FA Cup against Bowers and Pitsea and was taken off. So I think it's the players we've got in our squad who could step forward. Ted Bishop being the final one.
Yeah, of course. So this season in Gary, of course, you want to improve on the 17th place finish. Of course, Mark Kenny's first full season in senior management. I know you mentioned he was at Macclesfield, but that didn't last long. So there's going to be a lot of interest really for Lincoln City. What do you reckon? What are you wanting to see?
I'm wanting to see an improvement in the way that we approach games. I want a little bit more positivity, certainly at home. There needs to be an improvement in the home record because we were poor at home last season. And if you win games at home and lose away, the fans stay on side. If you lose games at home and you're winning away in front of 500 at Shrewsbury, which we didn't, by the way, we lost and we're awful. But your fans turn quicker. It's your bread and butter's your home, so we've got to be better at home. People will say, oh, I want to see us finish higher than 17th. Right now, if you get me 17th on a plate, I'd snap your hand off and not go to one of the 46 games, and we'll start again next season. I think it's about consolidation. It's about bringing this kind of brave new era in. The truth is, on paper, there are 10 teams in this division I know are not as good as Lincoln City when we were at our best. I also know that there's 23 teams that are capable of beating us at home and us not scoring if we're at our worst. So we've just got to be at our best. It sounds so cliched. If we're at our best more than we're at our worst, then I'll be happy. We weren't last season. We were the season before.
Definitely. And let's talk about the head-to-heads then, Gary. Lincoln Ipswich, we've got that history back in, the FA Cup replay at your place and you winning, being the big underdogs and, non-league team being a championship team. Now we're used to each other now. We're seeing each other every season pretty much now. Our head-to-heads, we first see Lincoln Ipswich Town at Portman Road on the 15th of October, and then 2nd of January, the Blues travel down to Lincoln. Of course, it was originally going to be New Year's Day, but they've moved it to 2nd of Jan so we can all have a nice booze up on New Year's Eve. What are you expecting for those two games? Of course, last season, different scorelines.
Yeah, well, last season, look, I thought that we were worth at least a point at Sincil Bank, but the fact is you were more clinical than us. At your place, we forfeit the game, more or less. We had two big fixtures either side of it. We looked at it and thought we're not going to win at Ipswich, and we were poor that night. So it was back-to-back defeats. I don't expect us to get anything from Portman Road this season. And I think that Ipswich should be improving kind of game by game. I think there's a little bit less loading up on stars and just, throwing as much as you can at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. I mean, Joe Pigott from Market Harness is a classic example of that. I rated Joe Pigott, great striker, I think. Didn't get really a chance, but Marcus Harness will. So I think there's more of a plan at Ipswich this season. I fancy you personally to be kind of top six, if not top, kind of challenging for the top two. Therefore, I expect nothing from Portman Road. However, I can't stop thinking about the other New Year where you boys came to us and it was 5-3. And I always fancy us in the big games at Sincil Bank. And if we can keep that going and keep kind of raising that game, for instance, Sheff Wednesday at our place this year, 3-1, played them off the park. I fancy something, but yeah, I'm delighted because it means I can go out on the lash on New Year's Eve and not have to worry.
Of course, definitely. Well, Gary, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me. Any other business, anything else you want to mention, my friend?
No, not really. Just thank you for having me on and best of luck for all of the games that you compete in that do not have Lincoln lining up against you.
Of course, my friend. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed watching at home. Let us know your thoughts, comments, your feelings ahead of this season. Bring it on.